fans, Gooners, welcome to another edition of the Positively Uncensored Arsenal podcast. I am your host, Shotta, and over next door to me virtually is my good friend and my expert, Blackburn George. How are you doing, George?
I'm fine. Good morning.
Radio, it's still morning, my part of the world. I'm sure about you. Yeah, time zone differences. But George, just on a word of explanation, apology to our regular listeners. I did say it the last time, but I have a major illness in my family. I had to travel. It's all been happening in 2024, and I could not do the last two games. But I saw us clout Luton Town. And George, thought we were in a good vein of form. I saw us draw with Bayern Munich in the Champions League. And George, audience, I was shocked to see us lose, gutted to see us lose to Aston Villa at home yesterday. What was your immediate reaction, George?
Well, first of all, this is the first time for a long time we haven't met with smiles on our faces.
Yes.
And I think it's important to remember that, how many good days we've had, and not overreact to this one bad day. And it was a bad day, and I feared the worst when I saw the team sheet come out.
Yes.
But I've been proven wrong by Mikel Arteta so often that I'm reluctant to question him, his team selection or anything else that he does, because he mostly gets it right. But a lot of the things that I've been saying for a while sort of came together, and it showed how form can so easily change. I didn't think we played well against Bayern Munich. That was a bit of a worry, despite getting a draw at the end. But I said, if you remember, a few months ago that Jesus returning to full fitness might be the thing that costs us the league if he starts playing him at number 9 and puts Havertz back in midfield.
You said it on this podcast, and you said it on Twitter. I remember.
I didn't know I had said it on Twitter. I know I definitely said it on the podcast.
Well, you were skeptical of his return, and you kind of hinted at it. You didn't want to. My impression when I saw it on Twitter, you didn't want to sound too negative, but you did say something to that effect. I may be wrong, but that was my impression.
Yeah, I probably did then. That's about a good summary of it. I didn't want to sound negative when everything was positive vibes at the time, but I did fear. And yesterday we saw it came to fruition. He started him again at number 9. And he's not a number 9. He's not there as a number 9.
He doesn't stay in the box at all, George. I will give him credit for everything he does, but he's not very often in the box during the course of the game.
And when he does get in the box, his finishing is shit.
Yes.
So, maybe he's just as well not in the box if all he's going to do is miss chances. But that, and the fact that Jorginho wasn't playing, and he was going to move Declan Rice back into the defensive midfield position, combining with Havertz, and I didn't like that. But the way we played in the first half sort of made me think, well, it's not so bad. It's, we are the better team. We have created a good few chances. We should have scored, and we didn't. But after the break, when they came at us a bit more, I think it exposed the weaknesses that I had feared would happen with that team selection. Jesus is fine if he's buzzing about, but there's nobody in the box. It looks good because him moving into midfield, then Zinchenko moving into field, gives us a massive overload in midfield, which means we should absolutely dominate midfield. But we weren't. We weren't in that second half. So despite the fact that it was oftentimes 5 against 3, we weren't controlling the game. He eventually brought Jorginho on. I think it was about 80 minutes.
Yes.
Too late, really.
And too late, and in his desire to affect the game, the last goal he turned over. When the ball
But
came
he did turn it over. But if you and people do and can blame him if they wish.
Yes.
But you look where the through pass that he attempted was intercepted, cut out, just on the edge of their box.
Right.
It wasn't in the middle of the park. It was on the edge of their box.
But
So are you blaming him for the fact that they ran through one ball and they ran through the team and there was only Smith Rowe anywhere near enough to chase him down? That's not Jorginho's fault.
Yeah.
You know,
there's a recency bias. Sorry, George, but there's a recency bias in football. I mean, you could do 99% good things, and you do one bad thing in the game, late in the game that causes a goal, and you are the GOAT.
Exactly. And that's what I mean. You've got to try and create a goal, and that's what he was trying to do. All right, it got intercepted, but we were so open and so the shape was so bad. You can't blame him for that. But of course, people will blame him for that, and I've seen it online. They are blaming him for that.
Yes,
just like Shevchenko's getting it in the neck now. Suddenly,
well, George, I think we know that he's not good defensively. He was
exactly. You've just put your finger on the button. We know he's not good defensively. He's in the team for what he gives us, in addition to his very, very ordinary defending. And,
it's a very nice way of putting it.
And when it works, everybody's like lots of times last season, everybody's singing his praises. Now, all of a sudden, exactly the same player doing exactly the same things is a liability.
Yeah.
The two players that had raised us to a different level last season, Shevchenko and Zinchenko and Jesus, are now liabilities, according to many. Yeah. You just can't win, can you? I mean, Havertz, from the beginning of the season, let's face it, I was saying he was having a nightmare. He was struggling. It wasn't value for money. He had a golden patch when when Jesus was injured and he moved into number 9. And people are surprised now that he's less effective when they put him back to the position that they said he shouldn't be playing in the first place.
Correct.
So that's down to Mikel Arteta. Mikel picked that team yesterday without Jorginho that has been working really, really well in recent months. Havertz, not at number 9, which has been working really, really well. Martinelli, not starting. When he starts normally, he runs them ragged, and then you can bring Trossard on, who's absolutely out of this world when he comes on as an impact sub at 60 minutes. Instead of that, we have him starting. So I think there was some bad mistakes made by Mikel yesterday. But he almost got away with it because in the first half, we could have been 2 or 3 goals up.
Well, George, I want to emphasize that point. And you know that I share the stats with you. Because in the first half, George, we had 56% possession. We had 14 shots at goal. We had a 1.4 something expected goals. In the second half, we had a 0.16 expected goals. We had 46% possession, and we had 4 shots at goal. Now, I don't know if you agree with me, but I'll put it down to the exertion, the effort at drawing with Bayern, because Bayern gave us a run for our money. And I feel that based on experience, and people want to deny this is a long statement before a question. people forget the Champions League era when we came from Europe and we were tired and stale, and people would say, Wenger, your team is not up to it. And I think that is part of the reason why we started off so well. George, I won't say we pinned. Aston Villa had a tactic. Emery had a tactic. Sit back, defend, counter-attack. And by the second half, and you said it over and over, we were harassing and pressing in the first half, but we were out of steam by the second. Don't you agree? Do you agree with my analysis?
I do agree with your analysis. And to blow my own trumpet again, how many times have I said you cannot press unless you're dominating the ball? Now, you said we had, 56% possession in the first half.
Correct.
That's not enough. That's nowhere near enough if you're going to be pressing and Genga pressing or whatever you want to call it. You have to have 78 to 80% possession. Otherwise, you can't continue in the second half. And we couldn't continue in the second half. Odegaard in the first half of that game was absolutely outstanding.
Correct.
If you watch him, it's him leading the press. He's the man at the top of the field that everybody follows. It's him running from centre to the wings to close players down, to double up on them. And it's him controlling the ball, skipping past one or two players, spinning round, keeping the ball and distributing it. And he did all of that phenomenally well. But you cannot do that for 90 minutes if you're chasing the ball all the time. You can only do it occasionally, not 50% of the time. And I feel that, and I said this before, I've been saying it for months, years, if you're going to play like that, you have to basically win the game in the first half.
And we had some chances, and
we didn't.
And we didn't take advantage of. And
George,
I
could have been worse. We could have been 1-0 down.
Well, the stat says that I don't agree with it, but who scored said they didn't have one shot on target in the first half. But
no, George? They hit the bar. They hit the post.
Yes.
That's a bloody
on target.
As near to a goal as you can get. I don't care what the fucking stats say.
Exactly. That was coming very close. Area was in no position to save those, George. Sorry, go ahead.
They also hit the bar in the woodwork in the second half as well.
Oh yeah, we're going to talk about that. But
so it's not it's not like they were lucky to win. They made some good chances, and I mean, but if you're trying to be realistic, the fact that Trossard missed
that. Yes, the one-on-one with Martinez.
Well, but he shouldn't have been one-on-one. He had 3/4 of the goal. He could have put it in and it was empty. All he had to do was turn his foot 10 degrees.
5 degrees.
Instead of that, he played it where Martinez could get a foot to it.
Right, exactly.
But there was no need for that. He could just have put it in at the other 3/4 of the net that was available to him. There was no other player near him that could have blocked it. There was no reason for him not to. Had he done that, it's a different game. It's a different game. But you can say that at the other end. Had the Ollie Watkins shot gone in instead of hitting the bar, hitting the post and spinning along the goal line and going out to play on the other side, it would have been a different game. So the fact was, we didn't do enough in that second half, anywhere near enough to win the game. We were second best. We were second best. And you shouldn't have a team coming to the Emirates when we're chasing the title and making us look second best for half a game of football. This shouldn't happen.
George, I am going to slightly disagree with you. I think, and like the point I made before, repeating myself, I think we ran out of steam because, as you say, we didn't have enough possession. Because you know what Aston Villa did there, George? They slowed down the game and they were technical enough to work the ball out of very difficult situations. I was a little surprised at their technical ability to literally come out of some very, very tight quarters. And I was like,
Yeah.
if you don't, you got to get good possession against these guys. And we flagged in the second half. I flagged enormously. I could share these statistics with the audience if you don't mind, George. It's not Arsenal if you not Mikel Arteta's Arsenal. If you kind of bigger, I don't know. No, I don't like that view. Yeah, let me get rid of the banner. Look at that, George. 0.18 expected goals in the second half, Arsenal. These, the possession went from 46%. They had 54. Any comment on that, George? An additional comment. We literally ran out of steam, in my opinion.
Yeah, we did run out of steam. But that running out of steam is a consequence of not controlling the game when you're full of vim and vigor in the first half.
Yes.
It makes it necessary to continually press to try and get the ball back.
Yeah.
Had Jorginho been playing and we'd kept the ball better, moved it around more, been more patient, we'd have run them out. They would have been knackered in the second half. We could have had the ball. It's the same old story. Possession might not score your goals, but it certainly makes scoring goals at the end of the game a lot easier. And it was a bad night. It was bad selection for the initial starting 11. Substitutions were made too late, and the wrong players were substituted when he did make the changes.
Can you elaborate on that, George? Can you elaborate on that? Because
I said it 60 minutes or so, I tweeted that we should be making changes. It should be Martinelli, Jorginho, and Tomiyasu on, Jesus, Trossard, and Zinchenko off. And I think that would have
never took off Zinchenko, by the way. You took off Trossard in this 80th minute, and Jesus played right throughout the game. No. Didn't Nketiah replace him?
Nketiah replaced him with hardly any time to go at all.
Yes.
And but I don't mean those substitutions. Those substitutions are irrelevant when you're 2-0 down. And
exactly. That's throwing in the towel.
The point was, you could see after the first 5 or 10 minutes in the second half, changes had to be made. It wasn't working. We weren't controlling the game. They were on top. Changes should have been made then, and I think those are the changes that should have been made. But I keep saying this, what the fuck do I know? But and another thing is, what you have to be careful of saying is, I said that I think Tomiyasu should have started rather than Zinchenko or Kiwo. I think Jorginho should have played, and I think Havertz should have been at number 9. And if you're going to play Jesus, play him out wide, the opposite side to Saka. Now, to me, that would have been a better team, more balanced, and probably, and in my opinion, would have done better. But there's no saying that would have done better. It could have done worse. We could have won 4. We could have lost 4-0 with that team. People tend to think that, in hindsight, when they say this is what I would have done, that would have given a better result. It's not necessarily the case. But at least I'm confident and happy that I said it beforehand and I didn't wait till afterwards to be an expert.
Yeah.
So it was it was a terrible night for our title chances. And now you're looking at, you see, Aston Villa are a good team. They're 4th now.
Yes.
They're not mugs. However, we're playing Spurs next, who are very similar position-wise, points-wise, to Aston Villa. Yes. And we're playing them at their place, not at home. So that's not going to be an easy game either, by the way.
Well, I was looking here. When are we? It says here, Premier League, that on the 20th of April, it's Wolves. We're playing Wolves at their place. Is there a game, because we have Champions League this week?
Yeah,
I know we have a game against Spurs, but I don't see it here on the printout
but
that I made.
it's in about, I don't know, 18 or 19 days time.
No, 28th of April, George. Here it is, 28th of April. I see it.
But it's the next game they play.
Yes.
They don't play till then, and we've got about 4 games in between.
Yes,
So
yes, absolutely.
We're going to be knackered. They're going to be fresh as daisies, and we're playing them at their place, and they're almost on a par with Aston Villa. Points wise, I'll tell you, they're fighting for that 4th spot with Aston Villa. So they're not as bad as we like to think they are. They're not.
They're bad. And they're bad, George.
Yeah, but they can be good as well.
No. At Derby, they are up for it, and they would like to.
If they're up for it, if they start flying at us and get a goal or 2 early doors, then we're in trouble. And they can do it because they did it at the beginning of the season.
Yes.
It's been found out now, Postecoglou. Big Ange.
Yes.
As they like to call him. Even though he's a little fat fucker, they call him Big Ange for some reason. But they're susceptible to balls over the top. And because they play such a high line, everybody knows that now, and he's being exposed. But that's not to say that doesn't work from time to time.
Yes.
And when it does work, it can be devastating.
Nice.
And if they're fresh, not having played between now and when we play them, and we are going to be on our 4th game or 5th game.
No, fourth. 1 Champions League and 3 Premier League games.
In that time period, then it's not going to be that easy. And neither is Wolves, by the way.
No, they can, because they can up their game, and
they can play good possession football as well, which will mean us chasing the ball, chasing them down, trying to get the ball back for 50% of the time. It's going to be exactly the same thing again. We're going to be tired in the second half because we're going to have had we're going to have played Bayern Munich in between. It's exactly the same scenario. Only Wolves are not quite as good a team as Aston Villa.
No, they're not.
But but now we're playing them confidence dented, tired, feeling sorry for ourselves that we're not in the title race as much as we thought we were. So it's a tricky period, and it could all go badly wrong. The effect of Mikel Arteta and the team and the fans over the next few weeks.
Well, historically, you and I, the people at our good friends at Positively Arsenal, over the years, nobody seems to. Let me not say something negative. We always felt we should help the team over the line because it's squeaky bum time. And George, Liverpool lost yesterday 1-0 to Crystal Palace. Yesterday? Yes, or the day before.
They did. But can I just say something about that? I watched that game. Liverpool had enough chances to win 10 games.
I tweeted that, George. Jones.
It's not like
Darwin,
I don't think they played well. They didn't play well in the first half.
Yes.
But in the second half, they were. It looked like inevitable that they would score 2 or 3 goals. They were absolutely peppering them, and they lost. So you can lose, But Liverpool didn't. But it was Crystal Palace. At least it was Aston Villa we lost to. It's not like we lost at home to Fulham or anybody like that, is it?
Yeah. And George, even Manchester City, people are now saying that I'm a Manchester City man, but they are the team that I fear the most. And they struggled initially against Luton Town. Once they scored, I think it was kind of inevitable, but they were struggling. What the point I'm making to the audience is that Manchester City is, in my opinion, is not the same Manchester City as last year. I mean, even Doku scored a goal yesterday, which is,
Yeah.
I don't know how much that is his a quota for the year, but they're not a big goal scoring team, and if you can restrain Haaland, you are in with a chance. I
Well,
just think they
you,
will drop
you're
points
dead
somewhere.
right.
Yeah,
You're dead right. Haaland's like scoring a fraction of the goals he scored last year.
right. But
And
teams have worked him out. Teams have worked him out.
yeah, and they've replaced bloody Mahrez with Doku. Big step down. They've replaced Gundogan with, or Gundogan with Kovacic.
Yes, Kovacic, the fellow from Chelsea.
Yeah,
Or
good, decent player, but Gundogan was an outstanding player.
Go and ask Bayern Munich.
I watched him playing for Barcelona the other night, and he's different class.
Yes.
So they're not as good. They're not as good. I think we're better overall. But I tweeted the other day, if we'd have kept Xhaka, if only we'd kept Xhaka.
Yeah, that's well. Martinelli's goals would be up in the teens. Well, double figures at least, George. You know, I mean, he on the left side, and the forward passes on the defensive nose. You know, it's chalk and cheese, and we probably wouldn't have to play Zinchenko in big games if you know what I mean. George, the big money question. Everybody is not everybody, but most of our fellow fans are giving up the ghost. But I think this is we still are in with a chance. I mean, it's not totally in our hands. What is your views on this?
Well, I think we're hoping that we can go perfect and Manchester City slip up. I don't really see either. I think Manchester City, if they do drop points, it'll be less points than we drop. I think they're 2 points ahead of us now, and I think they'll finish more than 2 points ahead of us come the end of the season.
But George, you're not a loyal Arsenal fan. You're supposed to be at the fount of optimism.
Yeah, well, this will be what? If they win this league this time, it'll be 4 in a row.
4 in a row, and six in X
6
number
and
of
7. But 4 in a row, never been done before.
Mm-hmm.
So that will basically make them the most dominant team in the history of the Premier League.
What are they taking to do? What are they doing to win this year's title? Because they lost to us and then drew with us. They're not scoring as much. Their goal difference is inferior to us. So what it is about them?
Well, they've just got more good players.
Well, the bench is deep, George. The bench is deep. That's what we know.
And the standard is high. And even the weak points are good players. Even though
why we don't?
Weak players are strong players. For anybody else, they would be they'd probably be starters. So
why we refuse to give them credit? Why do we think that they are chopped liver? I don't think most fans think so, but they pretend.
We're saying that they're not as good as last year, but they're probably going to win the league. They're in the Champions League still, and they'll probably win the FA Cup. They could win the treble again. And that's a team that's not quite as good as it was last season. Doesn't mean it's still not an exceptional team. And they've done it before. They've been here. Course and distance winners.
That's a difference, George. That's a difference. They are not panicking. They have been there and they play their game, knowing that inevitably they'll get their chances and score. Unlike us, we're getting anxious. The anxiety, you can see it. And in fact, at the end of the game yesterday, you could see a look of despair on some of our players.
Yeah, and it'll be exactly what I said before. You'll see them. They're able to press right up until the 95th minute because they've had the ball 70 80% of the time. And people say, oh, it's so boring. They're so boring keeping the ball, passing it backwards, sideways, blah, blah, blah. And then you see them just constantly using that possession to wear out the opposition, slow them down, muddle their thinking, and they just come through and win. And they've been doing it for years. They've been doing it for season after season. And they're not going to change now. They're not going to all of a sudden start hoisting long balls into the area, hoping that Haaland gets on the end of one. That's not happening, you know.
No.
So
okay,
it's a big ask for us. It's a big ask for us because basically we're not as good as them, and people want us to beat them in a 2-horse race.
That's a very big point you're making. A big take. Is that what they say? But
Yeah.
I can't disagree. How much to end this podcast, George? How much of what are our chances? How you want to rate it? I don't know what kind of score you want to use. Our chances, not Manchester City's.
I'd say our chances are about 10 to 15%.
Wow, that's a big call, George.
Our chances about 10 to 15%.
That's not going to make this podcast the favorites of the Arsenal is the
That's how I
greatest
see
team
it.
the world has ever seen. Well, okay, I think you're right. I
Well,
think you're right. I'd
of
like
course.
to see Manchester City. Go ahead. Go ahead. You're about to say something.
I'm saying it. It's 100% I want us to win it. It's 100% I hope we win it. But hope and faith not going to get you points at the end of the day.
Yeah, 6 more games to go. Well, George, we will stick around and we will encourage our team. It's a massive setback to Villa, but the title race is not over. You agree?
Yeah. It's not over till the fat lady sings, as they say.
Thank you, George. We agree on something. All right, my friend. Like and subscribe, guys. We are not the most popular podcast around, but we say what we know there are a few of you who like to our opinion. Thanks for your continued support. And we look forward to seeing you again. Bye. Bye, George.
Now.